It was a Thursday in late April. Warm evening. The kind where Colorado spring pretends it's already summer, even though the snow melt is still running through the gutters. I was pouring coffee in the kitchen when I noticed her suitcase, not because it was there, but because it was already packed. She never packed early. Megan always packed the night before, usually late, usually half distracted with grading or laundry. But that evening, her bag sat by the door at a perfect angle. Shoes lined up beside it. Zipped. Ready. She walked in a few minutes later, hair freshly washed, wearing the navy blouse she reserved for presentations. Makeup more polished than usual. Light perfume, something floral I didn't recognize. She said, "I've got everything. Don't forget to water the hydrangeas." I said, "I won't." "You've got your charger?" She smiled, kissed my cheek, and nodded. She said, "I'll text when I land." "Love you." I said it back. I always did. But the moment the door closed behind her, the silence had a different weight. My name is David Wilson. I'm 47. I teach physics at a public high school on the outskirts of Colorado Springs. Megan and I had been married 21 years. No kids. Not because we couldn't, just because we both thought life would be simpler that way. Easier. Quieter. Over the last year, things between us had grown, quieter still. Not in a bad way. Just like we were walking parallel tracks. Work, bills, dinner, the occasional weekend away. I never thought of it as a problem. I thought of it as marriage. Later that night, I sat down at my desk to prep Monday's lab sheets. I checked our shared calendar out of habit. That's when I saw it. A&M Special Project, March 14th to 17th. It wasn't a school function. Not a department meeting. Not even marked private. Just there. A&M. Her initials and someone else's. I scrolled further. The previous entries were normal: parent-teacher nights, doctor's appointments, her book club. But this one stood out. I clicked it open. No location. No description. That's when something shifted. I opened her laptop. We shared one old habit. I wasn't spying. Not at first. I looked through the email drafts, browser tabs, downloads. Nothing stood out. Clean. Too clean. Then, a message popped up. Anonymous. "Your wife isn't who she says she is. Check the guest registry at the Palmer Hotel." Just that. Nothing else. I stared at the screen. And then I booked a flight to Chicago. What I found wouldn't just confirm the lie. It would rewrite the last year of my life. And it wouldn't stop there. The Palmer Hotel sat on East Monroe, just off Michigan Avenue. Old money elegance. Polished brass, dark marble, quiet lighting. The kind of place that didn't ask questions, just held secrets in thick carpets and concierge smiles. I checked in under my own name. One night. No bags. Just a man with a stiff collar and eyes that had stopped blinking normally since Denver. I wasn't nervous. I wasn't angry. I was calibrated. Room 514. South facing. Didn't matter. I walked the lobby for a while, taking in the layout. Bar to the left, restaurant behind the elevators, conference rooms on levels 3 and 4. I found the registry binder tucked behind the concierge desk. A quick glance while the attendant turned to answer a phone. Her name wasn't listed. I looked again. Group booking, Midwest Education Development Conference. Attendees from Colorado, Kansas, Nebraska. 4 names from her school. Hers not among them. I stepped outside, sat at the cafe across the street. Ordered coffee I wouldn't drink. At 11:32 a.m. I saw her. Megan. Black trench coat. Rolling suitcase. And Adam Reeves, walking 2 steps behind, talking too casually. He laughed. She touched his shoulder. They walked into the hotel like they'd done it before. Like it wasn't new. Like it wasn't wrong. I didn't follow. Not yet. I sat. Looked at them through the window glass like they were a photo, captured, still, undeniable. Then I pulled out my phone and opened our shared bank account. Nothing touched. Not yet. I checked the email we both use for airline confirmations. Her ticket said return, Sunday, 6:15 p.m. United Airlines. Plenty of time. I flagged her location on my phone, turned off tracking on mine, and walked 3 blocks west. Bought a burner phone. Cash. If you want the truth, not the version they cry out when caught, not the apology scripted by guilt, you need patience. Silence. Space. They lie when they think they can still keep you. They unravel when they realize you already left. I didn't come to Chicago to confront her. I came to watch the mask fall, piece by piece, until there was nothing left but the woman behind it. I waited until they had disappeared through the revolving doors of the Palmer. I stayed seated, my coffee going cold. Across the street, the hotel's golden light poured onto the sidewalk, and people came and went without glancing twice. Just another couple entering a hotel. No drama. No scandal. Just footsteps and polite smiles and an easy, familiar rhythm between them. I watched for a full 10 minutes, then stood, dropped a few dollars on the table, and crossed the street. The lobby was warm, scented with citrus and polished wood. A string quartet played softly near the lounge bar. I didn't stop. I went straight to the front desk. The man behind it wore a name tag, Graham, Guest Services. I said, I believe my wife checked in under her maiden name. I need to leave something in her room, it's urgent. He smiled politely but didn't reach for the keyboard. He said, I'm afraid I'll need to verify the reservation name, sir. For security. I nodded and leaned in, lowering my voice. I said, Megan Whitaker. Room under Palmer Conference Group booking. I'm David Wilson. Husband. I don't want to make a scene, but I know she's here. I saw her come in 10 minutes ago. I need to leave something. You can call the room if that makes it easier. He hesitated, just for a second. Then he typed something into the screen. I watched his eyes. Neutral. Then a flicker. He said, I'll notify her there's someone here to see her. Please wait by the lounge. I stepped back. I didn't sit down. I stood by the grand piano, facing the elevators, hands in my coat pockets. 5 minutes passed. Then 7. At the 8th minute, Megan appeared. She walked slowly. Eyes searching. Not angry. Not surprised. Just composed, the way she always looked when she'd already rehearsed the outcome. She said, What are you doing here? I answered, Following the itinerary. She blinked. Took a breath. She said, David, this isn't. It's not what you think. I said, No? Then tell me. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like a lie wrapped in travel points and perfume. She looked around, a glance, quick and sharp. She wasn't ready to explain. Not here. She said, Let's talk somewhere private. I nodded once. We took the elevator in silence. Room 1311. She used a keycard. Inside, king-size bed, 2 suitcases, one open neatly on the luggage bench, a man's watch charging beside her phone. She sat in the chair by the window. I remained standing. She said, It started months ago. After the budget cuts. After you started withdrawing. I said nothing. She continued, It was never supposed to be anything serious. It just happened. I didn't plan it. I didn't even like him at first. I said, But now you're booking rooms together. She didn't answer that. I said, Why lie? She said, Because I didn't want to lose everything at once. You. The house. The reputation. I wasn't ready. I nodded. Her honesty now wasn't repentance. It was resignation. I walked to the window. The city lights glimmered below. I said, Does he know? She said, That I'm married? Yes. He didn't care. Of course he didn't. I turned toward her. I said, I'm not here to beg. And I'm not here to fight. I needed to see it for myself. And now I have. She looked up. Her eyes were wet, but not broken. She said, "So what now?" I walked to the door. I said, "Now you live with the choices you made. And I'll live with mine." Then I left. At 8:12 p.m., I sat back down at the same cafe across the street. Ordered dinner, something ordinary, something warm. I opened my phone. Booked a room at another hotel, a mile away. Then I logged into our shared bank account. She hadn't touched it yet. That was about to change. She thought this was the end of a chapter. She had no idea. It was only the first page of a very different story. The kind where I don't speak much. I just move. Quietly. Cleanly. With purpose. I woke up in a modest room on the 11th floor of the Westin, a full mile from the Palmer. The sun broke through a slit in the blackout curtain, casting a perfect line across the carpet. I hadn't slept long, but I'd slept deeply, like a man who finally crossed a line he could never return from. By 7:45, I was dressed and walking toward Wacker Drive. The city was waking up, runners, traffic, suited silhouettes with paper coffee cups. I blended in. Just another quiet man on his way to do what had to be done. I stopped at the Chase branch on Monroe. The banker's name was Julian. Young, careful, polite. He ushered me into a private office when I explained I needed to open new accounts, personal, savings, a legal trust. He said, "May I ask what prompted the restructure?" I said, "Change in circumstances." He nodded without pressing. By 9:10, everything was set. I had new account numbers, digital access, and a fresh plan for financial separation. Not a single alert had gone to the old email she had access to. I'd made sure of that. I walked 2 blocks east and ducked into a FedEx location. Printed a new will. Signed it. Notarized. At 10:24 a.m., I stepped into the office of a lawyer recommended by an old college friend, the kind of man who didn't advertise but never needed to. His name was Roger Blake. Gray suit. Calm hands. No small talk. I said, "My wife and I are legally married. There was no prenup. But I want to initiate proceedings. Quietly for now." He said, "You suspect infidelity?" I answered, "I have proof." He said, "Joint property? Assets?" I laid out the picture: house in Colorado Springs, 2 vehicles, retirement savings, investments. No children. No debt. We built everything together, and now it would be divided apart. Roger said, "If we move fast and clean, we can file by next week. You'll be protected. But it's best to get ahead of her." I nodded. By noon, I was back in my hotel room. I took a long shower. Stood there under the water with my hands against the wall, thinking not of betrayal, but of structure. Of consequences. She lied. He enabled. But now it was about outcome. At 2:30 p.m., I received a text from her. She said, "Where are you?" I didn't reply. At 3:12 another. She said, "We need to talk. This isn't how it should end." She was wrong. It would end precisely the way she built it, quietly, methodically, without her voice steering the narrative. That evening, I went back to the Palmer. Not to see her. I asked the front desk for Adam Reeves. I said, "I'm David Wilson, Megan's husband. I believe you know who I am." The man behind the desk shifted. "Check the system," he said. "Mr. Reeves isn't in right now." I nodded. I said, "When he returns, give him this." I handed over a sealed envelope. Inside, a simple note. "Some men scream. Some sue. Some vanish. I build. Enjoy your time with her, Adam. It comes with interest." I didn't sign it. Back outside, the night air was cold again. I walked north, past the bridge, and let the sounds of the city wrap around me like armor. I wasn't heartbroken. I wasn't even angry. I was something else entirely. Awake. Prepared. Unshaken. Tomorrow, she'll come home to a house that's no longer hers, a marriage that's no longer real, and a man she can no longer read. Because some storms don't thunder. They move in silence, and they never leave what they find untouched. She came home in the early evening. I knew the moment her car pulled into the driveway. I was sitting in the upstairs office, where I'd moved the essentials 2 nights prior. She didn't knock. She used her key. But when she stepped inside and flipped on the hallway light, something in her footsteps changed. The foyer was different. Quiet. Tidy. And the entryway table, the one where we kept our shared mail, her extra charger, and the key bowl, was gone. I heard her set her suitcase down. The zipper opened. A pause. Then she called out. She said, "David?" I didn't answer. She walked through the kitchen. Then up the stairs. The second-floor hallway light clicked on. The bedroom door opened. I heard her stop. I'd cleared the left side of the closet. Empty hangers. Nothing on the dresser but her things. She walked back into the hallway, slower this time. Then, a knock at the office door. I opened it. Looked at her. She looked tired. The kind of tired that sits in the eyes, not the body. She said, "We need to talk." I stepped aside. Let her in. She looked around. Noticed the files. The laptop. The envelope with legal letterhead. She said, "You already filed." I said, "Thursday morning." She nodded once, slowly. She was holding herself together, barely. She said, "You didn't even wait to hear why." I answered, "You already told me why." She moved toward the window. Looked out at the quiet neighborhood we'd lived in for 10 years. She said, "You think I planned this?" I said, "I think you made a choice. And now I'm making mine." She turned, hands clenched at her sides. She said, "You're acting like none of it meant anything." I looked at her, not with hatred, but with clarity. I said, "It meant something. Until it didn't." She sank into the chair across from the desk. No tears. Just breath, shallow and fast. She said, "Do I get a chance to explain?" I said, "You can say whatever you want. It won't change where this is going." Silence stretched between us. Then she looked at the envelope. She said, "What are you doing with the house?" I answered, "Keeping it. The deed's already transferred to the trust. You'll get the rest in equity." She nodded again. Then came the question she hadn't asked until now. She said, "Do you still love me?" I paused. Not for effect, for honesty. I said, "I did. Enough to stay through hard years. Enough to forgive distance, silence, and resentment. But love dies in dishonesty. You didn't kill it overnight. You eroded it, one lie at a time." She stood. Walked to the door. Then stopped. She said, "You're cold." I replied, "I'm calm." She said, "Then I guess you've already said goodbye." I said, "Not yet. But I'm about to." She left 15 minutes later. No suitcase. Just her purse. The car started, pulled away slowly, turned at the end of the block. I didn't watch from the window. Instead, I walked down to the garage. Opened the locked cabinet, and pulled out the box labeled Plan B. Inside, a thumb drive, hard copies, timelines. Because some people destroy things to feel power. Others rebuild, to never feel powerless again. She walked out thinking it was over. But she doesn't know the part that comes after endings. The part where silence becomes strategy, and every move has weight. The game hasn't ended. It just changed boards. It had been 4 days since she left. 4 days since the front door closed with quiet finality, and the stillness inside the house settled like dust after demolition. Not grief. Not chaos. Just silence. And silence, as I'd come to understand, was not a void, it was space. Space to think. To measure. To build. That morning I sat at the kitchen table with a mug of black coffee and a legal pad. No music. No news. Just the rhythmic ticking of the wall clock and the soft creak of wood beneath shifting weight. I reviewed the outline, property division, accounts, vehicle titles. Every item had been addressed. The lawyer had sent confirmation. The house was secure, the trust irrevocable. Megan's access was severed cleanly. But there was still one thing unfinished. I opened my laptop and typed in the school district's staff directory. I clicked on Adam Reeves. His smiling photo stared back. P Department, hired last fall. I clicked. Send email. Subject line, conduct disclosure, personal notification. Content, attached are time-stamped images and room data logs from the Palmer Hotel in Chicago, March 14th to 17th. The parties involved, Megan Wilson, science faculty, and Adam Reeves, athletics. Evidence confirms non-professional engagement during school-sanctioned absence. I didn't include threats. No demands. Just facts. Then I added one line more: this message is a courtesy. Further disclosure will be made to the school board if necessary. I hit send. By 9:17 a.m. my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered. He said, "Mr. Wilson? This is Gregory Hines, assistant principal. I just received." I said, "Yes." He said, "You understand this opens a formal investigation." I answered, "I'm aware." He said, "We'd prefer to handle this with discretion, if you're amenable." I said, "That depends on how honest they are when you speak to them." He paused. He said, "Would you consider a confidential resolution?" I replied, "I already have mine. What you do next is your call." I ended the call. Closed the laptop. The point was never vengeance. It was exposure, just enough light to stop the infection from spreading deeper. No more lies. No more appearances. Later that day, I stopped by the hardware store. Bought new locks. Not for security, for symbolism. I changed them all by nightfall. That evening, I found an old file folder in the attic. One I hadn't touched in years. Inside were sketches, notes, blueprints, ideas for a physics curriculum I'd started before Megan's world pulled me into hers. For 10 years I taught from the district's structure. Clean, safe, expected. But I used to think bigger. At 11:08 p.m., I opened a new Word doc. Named it, Independent Physics Initiative, Draft 1. Wednesday came with rain. By noon, I was at a coffee shop near downtown. Quiet corner, fresh notebook. At 1:47 p.m., my phone buzzed again. It was her. She said, "I need to see you." I didn't respond. She wrote again, "It's not about us. It's about what you've done." I answered, "I haven't done anything. I just stopped protecting your lies." She replied, "He's suspended. They're questioning everything. Are you proud of this?" I typed. Then paused. Then deleted. No. I put the phone away. She thought silence meant surrender. But silence is just another language, one she never bothered to learn. And now she's hearing it everywhere. Loud. Sharp. Unforgiving. It had been nearly a week since the last message from her. No more texts. No calls. No unexpected knocks on the door. Megan had retreated, or maybe she was just recalculating. Either way, the stillness was a different kind now. Not heavy. Not watchful. Just settled. That Sunday I took the truck, the old silver Tacoma she always hated, and drove west out of the city. Past the foothills. Through open roads that looked the same as they did 15 years ago when I first came to Colorado. I stopped at a trailhead near Pikes Peak. Walked alone for an hour. No headphones. No distractions. Just the sound of gravel and air and the slow rhythm of boots on dirt. At the summit turn, I sat on a weathered bench overlooking the valley. I didn't think about her. I thought about time. About what it gives you if you don't waste it trying to fix what doesn't want fixing. By the time I got back to the house, dusk had turned to night. Porch lights flickered on. Lawn sprinklers clicked alive down the street. Normal. Familiar. And entirely different. There was an envelope on the front step. No postage. Just my name. Inside, a short letter, handwritten. she said, David. I didn't fight the divorce because I knew I had no ground to stand on. I lied. I betrayed your trust. There's no excuse, and I won't offer one. But I want you to know I'm sorry. Not because I got caught. Because when I saw your face that night in Chicago, calm, still, absolute, I realized I was standing in front of a man I never deserved. Do what you need to do. Move on. Forget me. But if you ever want the truth, not about the affair, but about why I became the person I did, I'll tell you. If not, I'll stay silent. Like you did. And I'll live with it. I folded the letter and placed it in the drawer by the fireplace. I didn't burn it. I didn't respond. Some truths only matter when you're still trying to fix something. I wasn't. The next day, I submitted the formal withdrawal letter from the school district. Early retirement, framed as a personal decision. No drama. No gossip. Just a clean cut. I launched the new project site that same week. Independent physics education modules, small, focused, hands-on learning for underserved districts. The kind of work I used to dream about, before compromise replaced curiosity. I named the site Stillpoint. No one asked what it meant. That was fine. It meant enough to me. 2 months later, I saw Adam Reeves at a gas station off Highway 24. He looked thinner. Paler. He recognized me immediately. He said, "You win, I guess." I looked at him. Not with anger, just clarity. I said, "I didn't play your game. I ended mine." He said nothing. Just nodded. Then walked back to his car. Some people don't change. They just get smaller. Life didn't return to what it was. It moved forward. New rhythms. New mornings. Quiet earned joy. There's no dramatic ending. No shattered glass or courthouse monologues. Just a man who learned how to stop begging for clarity from people committed to fog. I didn't rebuild for revenge. I rebuilt so I'd never again forget who I am, and what silence can protect when used with purpose. Subscribe if you want more stories rooted in real emotion. About real men who don't raise their voice. They act cold. To the end.